In this week's Barely Functional Dev video, I'm going to be talking about function composition. Actually, I don't know how often I'm going to be publishing these, so if you want content more often, please leave a comment below. Also, if you need a background on what functions are or how you should think about functions, then watch my previous video linked somewhere. I'm trying a new experiment here. There will be no boring slides. I won't even be using the computer, but I will have props as visual aids to help explain the concepts. So in case you don't already know, I explain functional programming concepts using unusual and bizarre analogies. This particular time, we're going to be talking about how function composition is like using cable adapters. So it's important to note that there's different types of cable adapters. Here I'm going to start with a visual example. We're going to have a cable here that's used for extending USB signals. So we've got both types there. And the way this cable would work is you would plug in your USB device to one end of it, and then the signal will travel through the length of this, and you'll plug in the other end of the cable into where you want your USB device plugged into, except now you have more range for where you plug it into. And this is an example of a type of cable that would preserve the original signal. But there's also cables that will convert from one signal to another. And when these are short, and in some particular cases, when you plug them into a computer that has limited ports, they're often referred to as dongles. So here's an example of one of those, where on one end, we would have USB type A device. And then on the other end, this would convert to a USB-C type device. So this would be something you'd be using on a computer that only had, say, USB-C type ports, say a Mac maybe. That would be another type of cable that we would convert from one signal to another. There's also cables out there that would add to signals. Let's imagine that we have this wacky cable that takes in a video signal and then it generates some dank memes and it inserts the memes into the video on the other side. That's a very useful cable. You have other types of cables that might actually take away from the signal that comes through them. So an example of that might be like a cable that's for charging only, and maybe it removes the data that was in the signal if it existed for that purpose. So it's only for charging your phone. And then you can have cables that might even convert wildly different types of signals from one to another. So you can imagine a cable that takes in an audio signal and then it spits out a video that does visualizations and really trippy versions of that audio. So basically, let's introduce one more type of cable here. This one is probably familiar to iPhone users, where you have input is a USB type signal here. And on the other side, you get a lightning connector so you can charge your phone or connect it to various devices. Okay, so it's important to take a break here and realize how these are related to functions. If you think about it, each of these little guys here takes in an input. Let's say it takes in the USB device, and then it travels through here and it spits out an output on the other side. And then similarly, we have for the other adapter, it takes in an input and it spits out an output. What's interesting is we can take compatible adapters and we can chain them together, right? So we can take the signal from this one and we can attach it, the two related USB cables, together. Beautiful. So what this means is now we can plug in one side of the adapter to my computer that has the USB Type-C device, and then that signal will flow along here, and then the output will go right into the input of another cable, and then the results of that will go to my phone, and it will travel both directions in this case. So you can imagine if we were to repackage this and we were to essentially cover up the fact that there's two cables connected together and only expose the two ends on the extremes here, then what we have is a new cable that immediately takes the USB Type-C and then on the other side spits out my lightning cable. And this is where we connect it to function composition, because what we've essentially done here is we've created a new cable, or in my analogy, a new function that takes one type of input. Some stuff happens that we don't expose as part of the function. All we do is return something that is the result of the two functions we put together. It's important to note that we're not limited to just doing this with two functions though. So for example, we could take this, start with this cable again, where we take USB-C, and we take the signal from there. We put that into my extension cable here. We travel along the whole length of this, right? And then on the other side of here, we have another compatible cable we can put into here. And now we've made yet another type of cable that has the same input and the same output, but it has yet another connection made that provides this other feature where we provide more reach for the cable. Then none of that needs to be exposed as part of the implementation. All that really matters to the users of it is what you need to give it for input and what you take out on the other side. So hopefully this is just a brief analogy. If you guys want to provide more details and more examples in code, I can definitely do that as well. I just wanted to try and stay conceptual for this video. And I don't have an outro written yet. However, I'll be accepting nominations in the comments section. Go at it. And I think I'm gonna go build that meme generator right now.